What's good? What's going on? Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome to another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast, coming to you via the YouTube airways. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K Sap. And today, man, we got one hell of a show for you guys today. But when you come across this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you got your post notifications on so you'll know every time Simply Ball drops another hot banger. And if this is your first time coming across the channel and you're new to this platform, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, post your comments, share the video out, and make sure you give the video a thumbs up. I see everybody in the comment section, #salute. And you know what my mantra is. Tell a friend and tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. Man, today's show, man, this is an explosive show. Our good old pal, Jason Whitlock, has found the courage and the nerve after Cat Williams broke the internet on Club Shay Shay to start investigating to tell his truth in 2024. Now, this particular situation goes back to the beef between Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock. So Jason Whitlock, what Jason Whitlock has done, he has did his research on the time of Stephen A. Smith's claim that he played basketball for Winston-Salem State in college and he was offered a full ride. It's kind of interesting on what Jason Whitlock had to say and the things that he said on his latest podcast, Fearless. It is very entertaining. It's very questionable. And now Jason Whitlock is questioning the book that Stephen A. Smith wrote called Straight Shooter. He is basically saying it is fictitious. He said it's fictional. And he said nobody has ever did the research to fact check what Stephen A. Smith wrote in his memoir. He said something about whoever ghostwrote it, they never checked the sources out to see if everything that Stephen A. Smith said was true. So I found it kind of interesting on what Jason Whitlock had to say about the book, the memoir, Straight Shooter. So let's take a listen to what Jason Whitlock said about the book, The Straight Shooter, and the time that Stephen A. Smith claimed to be playing basketball at Winston-Salem State. Let's take a listen.
Stephen A. Smith released a memoir in 2023 called Straight Shooter. I read it. It's farcical. When I listened to Cat Williams talk about Kevin Hart and Steve Harvey, my mind immediately drifted to Stephen A. Smith's memoir. Smith's story just doesn't add up. He, or his ghostwriter, claims he received a full basketball scholarship from Winston-Salem State after a one-day tryout in February of 1988.
Now, you heard what he said. He said they claim that Stephen A. Smith received a full basketball scholarship on a one-day tryout in 1988.
A former Winston-Salem State basketball player allegedly drove Smith from New York to North Carolina for a tryout after Smith impressed the former player during a one-on-one matchup on a playground court. According to his book, Smith arrived on Winston-Salem State's campus on a Saturday, checked into a hotel, and woke up Sunday morning to participate in a scrimmage. I want to pause here just for a second and give you a bit more context before I explain this full story. Let me add that Smith played 1 year of high school basketball. He rode the bench for the 1985-1986 Thomas.
He said he played 1 year of high school basketball and he rode the bench. Jason Whitlock is about to unleash
Edison High team as a senior. In the book, he says his one season of prep basketball ended abruptly when he failed a single assignment in a single class. He didn't fail the class. He failed an assignment and was removed from the team.
Wow.
That's according to his book. That just a guy fails an assignment and is removed from his high school basketball team. So after his abbreviated high school career, which involved him riding the bench for half the season, Smith matriculated to the Fashion Institute Technology College of New York. It's a school for men and women that want to get into fashion. Smith enrolled he could play on Fitt's junior college basketball team. He rode the bench at Fitt too.
Wow.
In his book, hold for 1 second. Not only did he ride the bench, he halfway through the season without, I don't even say halfway through the season, at some point during the season, without explanation in the book, he disappeared from the Fitt basketball team. He just said, I left. He didn't explain why, other than saying he was riding the bench. But I want to read to you, this is directly related to basketball. This is what he said his schedule was like while a member of the Fitt basketball team in New York City. I'm going to read to you from his book that unfortunately I've read. Off the court, I didn't have a minute to spare. Cultivating an endless capacity for work, I took the maximum 18 credit hours a semester.
Stephen
Why?
A. Smith, man,
Anyone
you
who
got
grew
some
up poor knows
explaining
the
to
answer.
do, man.
When you're relying on financial aid, you take as many hours as possible because you don't know how long your education will be paid for. I also found a full-time job to offset the cost of books and expenses, as well as any extracurricular activities I might pursue that my aid didn't cover. My mother had made it clear she wasn't supporting another do-nothing man in the house. So my job at Barnes & Noble's bookstore in Midtown Manhattan started every weekday morning at 8:30 a.m.
Wow.
So here's the schedule Stephen A. Smith says he was living under while playing basketball for the Fitt team. Like many other Hollis commuters, that meant the following routine: wake up at 6 a.m., shower, dress, and then hustle up the block to catch the Q2 bus on the Hollis Avenue.
So basically, I'm not going to play the full interview, but basically, if you go to Jason Whitlock's podcast, you can hear it in its entirety. But basically what Jason Whitlock is saying, and you will hear it if you go listen to it, that the guys that he claimed that he played with at Winston-Salem State, these guys don't exist. He's did the research, looked at the yearbooks, and he can't find none of them guys that Stephen A. Smith has played with, except for one guy that he's been traveling around with, you know, when he takes his show on the road. And like he said, Stephen A. Smith is 6'1", and all the guys that Stephen A. Smith listed that he played with was 6'3", 6'4", and 6'5". But he says Stephen A. Smith towers over all these guys that he's mentioned. So he hasn't found no record of Stephen A. Smith playing for Winston-Salem State. There's pictures out there, but he hasn't found no statistical record. He's almost basing this off of the night Wilt scored 100 points when we just saw the photo. You see a photo of Stephen A. Smith, you know, Winston-Salem State Rams. You see a picture of that. So Jason Whitlock said he has read the book, and he claims that everything that Stephen A. Smith has said in the book is a straight lie. He's questioning Stephen A. Smith's college basketball career because basically he's saying, how do you get a full scholarship just because you went out on the playground and hit 17 shots and they offered you a full ride, but you rode the bench in high school? It doesn't make sense. And he said basically he came out to do this and speak his truth because Cat Williams has opened up the space for people to come out and speak their truth about situations. And Jason Whitlock has done the research on this particular thing he has talked about on Stephen A. Smith. I knew Jason Whitlock was not going to go out quiet because the beef between Stephen A. Smith is real. So the back and forth between Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock is going to get ugly after Stephen A. Smith hears this latest from Jason Whitlock on trying to discredit his college career. But you guys let me know what you think from the evidence that I just played. And if you go to Jason Whitlock's podcast and listen to Jason Whitlock speak to this in its entirety, you'll understand where I'm coming from, and you'll understand what Jason Whitlock is saying. I know Stephen A. Smith is going to respond to this, and we hope he does, because we want to hear what Stephen A. Smith got to say about this latest from Jason Whitlock. So you guys let me know what y'all think. Post your comments below. I love to hear from you. You know I read all the comments. Please share this video out. Get this video out to the masses. Make sure you give it a thumbs up when you come across. And thanks for all the support. And this is going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. We're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
Another one.